They had ruled the stars for 12,000 years. They had conquered 400 star systems. They had defeated every species they had ever met. In all that time, no enemy had ever won a single battle against them. High Commander stood before his war council on the great ship that orbited their home world. He was tall and proud, with silver skin and 4 eyes that glowed like dying stars. Around him sat the greatest military minds of the Dominion. "Today we celebrate another victory," said. His voice was calm and certain. "The system has fallen. Their fleet burned in 3 hours. Their people now serve us." The council members made sounds of approval. This was normal. This was expected. War was easy for them. They had the best weapons. They had the strongest shields. They had ships that could crack planets open like eggs. Observer sat in the corner of the great hall. She was a scholar, not a warrior. Her job was to write the history of every conquest. She had written about 200 victories. They all sounded the same. "We have found a new species," Fleet Master announced. He was younger than eager to prove himself. "They call themselves humans. They live on a small blue planet called Earth." Waved his hand and images appeared in the air. The council saw human ships. They were small and ugly. They used fire to push themselves through space. Their weapons shot pieces of metal. Their strongest bombs used splitting atoms. The council laughed. "This is their technology," one commander asked. "They still use kinetic weapons, like throwing rocks." "Their bodies are soft," continued. "They cannot survive high acceleration. They need air and water and food. They live for less than 100 years. More laughter filled the hall. "I will take 40 ships," said. "The conquest will take 1 day, perhaps 2. Nodded slowly. "Go, bring them into the Dominion. Try not to damage the planet too much. It looks like it could be useful." Observer wrote in her records, "New species discovered. Classification, minor threat. Expected conquest time, minimal." She had written these words many times before. Far away on the other side of the galaxy, Captain Ho stood on the bridge of his ship. The UNSS was not a big ship. It was not a beautiful ship. It was a destroyer built for one purpose, to fight and to survive. Ho was 43 years old. He had gray in his short black hair. He had scars on his hands from battles he never talked about. His eyes were tired but sharp, like a wolf that had been hunting too long. "Captain," said Ensign Li Bin. She was young, only 22. This was her first real mission. Her voice was shaking a little. "Message from Admiral, Priority 1. Ho took the message. He read it twice. His face did not change, but his hands tightened on the data pad. "Lieutenant," he called out. Looked up from her weapons console. She was 31, with calm eyes and steady hands. She had been a competitive shooter before joining the Navy. She never missed. "Sorry. How are the—" "All 4 batteries ready, Captain. We can put tungsten through anything within range." Ho nodded. "Good, because we are going to need them." He pressed a button and his voice went through the whole ship. Every sailor, every engineer, every soldier heard him. "This is the captain. First contact has been made. Aliens have entered our solar system. They sent us one message, surrender or die." He paused. "Command has decided on our response. We are not going to surrender. We are not going to wait for them to reach Earth. They will go out alone to meet them." Silence filled the ship. Everyone knew what this meant. One ship against an alien fleet. It was suicide. "I will not lie to you," Ho continued. "We are probably going to die out there, but we will show them what humans are. We will make them bleed. We will make them afraid. And when the rest of humanity fights, they will remember what we did." Down in the engine room, Chief Engineer Park Sung listened to the captain's words. He was the oldest man on the ship, 55 years old. He had been fixing ships since before some of the crew was born. He looked at his engines like they were his children. "Well," he said to his team, "you heard the man. Let us make sure this old girl runs hot enough to scare some aliens." Ensign Lee Bin sat at her station. Her hands were shaking. She thought about her mother and father back in. She thought about her little brother who wanted to be an astronaut. She opened a screen and started to write a message home. "Whatever you are writing," Lieutenant said gently, "finish it fast. We jump in 10 minutes." Bin nodded. She typed 3 words, "I love you." Then she closed the screen and turned back to her console. The engines roared to life. The ship shook as it prepared to jump across the solar system. In the darkness of space, 40 alien warships were waiting. They expected an easy victory. They expected humans to be like every other species they had crushed. They were wrong. As they vanished into the jump point, Fleet Master detected the single human ship approaching his position. He was amused. "One ship," he said to his crew. "They send one ship against 40. Document this. Future generations will find it funny." Observer aboard's vessel began recording, but something felt strange to her, something she could not explain. No species had ever charged toward the before. Every other race had run away. These humans were running toward them. She made a note in her records. The humans are either very brave or very stupid. I am not sure which. In 40 minutes, she would have her answer. They came out of the jump near the belt, at the edge of the solar system. Ice and rock floated everywhere in the cold darkness, and in front of them, 40 warships waited like silver sharks. Captain Ho looked at the enemy fleet on his screen. The alien ships were beautiful. They were smooth and elegant, glowing with soft purple light. Each one was 3 times bigger than the. "They are hailing us," Ensign Lee Bin reported. Her voice was steadier now. Fear had turned into focus. "Put them on screen." Fleet Master appeared before them. His silver face looked bored. His 4 eyes looked at Ho like he was looking at an insect. "Human vessel said, 'You have come to surrender. This is wise. Land on the nearest moon and wait for processing. Your crew will be.'" "No," Ho said. "Stop talking." His 4 eyes blinked. No one had ever interrupted him before. "You are in our home," Ho continued. His voice was flat and cold. "Leave or die." For a moment did not understand. Then he laughed. The sound was strange and metallic. "You threaten us, 1 ship against 40, shook his head. "I was going to be gentle. Now I will make an example of you." The screen went dark. Ho turned to his crew. "Battle stations." Lieutenant's fingers moved across her console. "Batteries 1 through 4 are ready. Targeting solutions locked." "Chief Park," Ho called through the comm. "I need everything the engines can give." Down in engineering, Park Sung patted his reactor like it was a nervous horse. "You hear that, old girl? Time to show them what you can do." He pushed the power output past the safe limit. Warning lights turned red. He ignored them. The fleet fired first. 40 ships launched their plasma lances at the same time. The weapons were elegant and precise. They had destroyed civilizations. The purple beams cut through space toward the. But the was not there. Ho had given the order to move before the aliens fired. He knew they would be arrogant. He knew they would expect an easy hit. The ship burned hard to the left and the plasma beams missed by meters. "Return fire," Ho ordered. "Press the trigger." The batteries launched their first salvo. There was no light, no sound. Just 4 pieces of tungsten, each one the size of a person, flying through space at 3% of the speed of light. The first 2 slugs hit a warship in the center. The shields flashed once, twice, and then failed. The tungsten punched through the hull and came out the other side. The ship broke apart in a silent explosion. A second warship tried to turn away. The next slugs caught it in the engines. The whole back half of the ship vanished in fire. On the command ship, Fleet Master stared at his screen. 2 of his warships were gone, just like that, in less than 10 seconds. "Impossible," he whispered. "Their weapons are primitive, our shields." "The shields did not hold," an officer reported. "The humans are using pure kinetic force, mass at high velocity. The shields are not designed for this. His 4 eyes went wide with anger. All ships, concentrate fire on that vessel, destroy it now. 38 ships turned their weapons on the plasma beams filled the space around it, but the human ship kept moving. It twisted and turned between the attacks. It ducked behind asteroids. It used the ice and rock of the belt as cover. Inside the crew was suffering. The ship was pulling 15 in its maneuvers. Human bodies were not built for this. Blood pooled in their legs. Their vision went gray at the edges. Every bone ached. But they did not stop. Ensign Li Bin tasted blood in her mouth. She had bitten her tongue during a hard turn, but her hands stayed on her console. She tracked enemy movements. She called out targeting data. Lieutenant fired again and again. Another ship died, then another. She was not thinking about fear anymore. She was not thinking about death. She was only thinking about the next target. On the alien command ship, Observer watched in horror and wonder. She had seen 100 conquests. She had never seen anything like this. The human ship was dancing through their fleet like a wild animal. They are insane, she said to herself. They should be dead. Why are they not dead? The battle went on for 2 hours. They took damage. A plasma beam finally hit them, burning away battery number 3. Another hit breached the hull in 3 places. Air screamed out into space before emergency seals slammed shut. But they kept fighting. Chief Park Sung was covered in sweat. His engines were running beyond any limit. Pipes were bursting. Coolant was leaking. The reactor was so hot he could feel it through the walls. "Captain," he reported, "the ship cannot take much more." "Give me 10 more minutes," Ho said. "Sir, if I push harder, we might explode." Ho's voice was calm. "The ship can rest when we are dead, Chief. Push harder." Park closed his eyes for a moment. Then he laughed, a short, tired laugh. "Yes, sir, 10 more minutes." When the fighting finally paused, 8 warships were destroyed. 3 more were crippled and drifting. There was damaged but still alive. Fleet Master stood on his bridge in shock. He had lost 11 ships to 1 human vessel. This had never happened in history. He opened a channel to High Commander back at the home world. His voice was shaking when he spoke. "High Commander, I need reinforcements. The humans, they are not like the others." There was a long silence, then his cold voice came through. "Reinforcements will arrive in 6 hours. Do not lose any more ships." Looked out at the damaged human vessel floating among the asteroids. It was broken and bleeding, but it was still alive, still watching them, still dangerous. On they, Captain Ho allowed himself a small smile. They were hurt, they were dying, but they had done something no species had ever done. They had made the afraid. "Everyone rest while you can," he told his crew. This was just the first round. They drifted behind a large asteroid hidden from the fleet. The ship was hurt badly. Holes in the hull, 1 battery gone, systems failing everywhere. But the crew was still alive, and that meant they could still fight. Captain Ho floated through the damaged corridors. The artificial gravity was broken in some sections. He passed crew members who were bleeding, crew members who were crying, crew members who were praying. But no one had given up. "Status report," he said when he reached the bridge. Lieutenant looked exhausted. There was dried blood on her forehead from a cut she had not noticed. 3 batteries still working. Missile tubes are loaded. We have maybe 60% weapons capability. "Chief Park, how are the engines?" Park Sung's voice came through the comm. He sounded like he had not slept in days. "The reactor is angry, Captain, but she will run. I am holding her together with tape and prayers." Ho nodded. "Ensign Lee, what are the aliens doing?" Bin studied her screens. Her hands were bandaged from burns. "They are holding position, sir. 32 ships left. They are waiting." "Waiting for reinforcements," Ho said. "They asked for help. That means we scared them." For a moment, no one spoke. Then asked the question everyone was thinking. Captain, what do we do now? We hurt them, but there are still 32 ships out there, and more coming. Ho walked to the front of the bridge and looked out at the stars. Behind that asteroid, the alien fleet was waiting. In 6 hours, hundreds more ships would arrive. The logical choice was to run, to retreat to Earth, to fight another day. But running would not teach the aliens anything. Running would just delay the end. "We attack," Ho said. Silence, then Bin spoke in a small voice. "Sir, they expect us to wait. They expect us to hide. They think they understand war. We are going to teach them they are wrong." Ho turned to face his crew. "In 3 hours we hit them again, before their reinforcements arrive, while they are defensive, while they are confused." Captain said carefully, "We are outnumbered 32 to 1, even if—" "There is an old saying on Earth," Ho interrupted. "Audacity, audacity, always audacity. They have better weapons, they have more ships, but they do not know how to fight someone who is not afraid to die." Meanwhile, Chief Park Sung was doing something they could not understand. He and his team put on space suits and went outside the ship. In the freezing darkness, they started fixing the hull. Observer watched through long-range sensors from the command ship. She could not believe what she was seeing. "They are repairing their vessel," she reported to Fleet Master, "in open space, with hand tools." Looked at the images. Tiny human figures crawled across the broken ship like ants. They were welding metal. They were patching holes. They were working in conditions that would kill most species in minutes. "This is madness," said. "They should retreat. They should accept defeat." "They do not seem to know they are defeated," replied quietly. She was writing in her records. "The humans refuse to die according to schedule. This is troubling." Back on the Ensign Lee Bin was doing something important. She had been listening to communications during the battle. Their language was complex, but their ships leaked a lot of data. She found something interesting. "Captain," she said, "I think I found a weakness." Ho came to her station. "Show me." Bin pointed at her screen. "Their shields are powerful, but they need to recharge. There is a gap, very small, about 3 milliseconds when the shield is switching power cells." 3 milliseconds, said. "That is nothing. No one can aim that fast." "A person cannot," Bin agreed. "But our targeting computers can. They were built for ballistic weapons, for calculating bullet paths, for hitting targets at extreme range." She looked up at the captain. "If we time our shots perfectly, we can hit them during the gap, every time." Ho smiled. It was not a happy smile. It was the smile of a hunter who had found his prey's throat. "Good work, Ensign. Program the firing computers. We attack in 2 hours." The next assault began without warning. They came around the asteroid at full speed, engines burning white-hot. It flew straight at the fleet. Fleet Master screamed orders. "Defensive formation, all ships focus fire." But there was already shooting. The rounds were timed perfectly. They hit the alien shields exactly when they flickered. One ship after another, the tungsten rounds punched through. 12 warships died in the first 10 minutes. The battle was chaos. They moved through the enemy fleet like a knife through water. It took hits. The second battery exploded. The main sensors went dark. The crew fought in near blindness, using backup systems and pure instinct. Chief Park Sung rerouted power from life support to keep the weapons working. The ship grew cold. The crew breathed through emergency masks. Their fingers went numb, but the guns kept firing. Lieutenant fired until her console started to smoke. "Targeting computer is overheating," she reported. "Keep shooting," Ho ordered. "Sir, if it fails." "Then shoot by hand. You never miss, Lieutenant. Do not start now." Took a deep breath. She switched to manual targeting. The next 3 shots were hers alone. Human eyes, human hands, human judgment. All 3 hit. Finally, Fleet Master gave an order that no commander had given in 3,000 years. "Retreat, all ships fall back." The fleet ran away. They ran from one damaged human ship. On the crew was too tired to celebrate. The ship was barely alive. Life support was failing. The engines were dying. 3 crew members had died during the battle. 17 more were wounded. But they had won again. Captain Ho sat in his chair and closed his eyes for a moment. They could not fight again. The ship had nothing left, but they had done enough. Far away, High Commander received Fleet Master's report. He read it once, twice, 3 times. 20 ships destroyed by 1 human vessel. Stood slowly. His silver face was cold with rage. Mobilize the entire war fleet, he ordered. 200 ships, I will go myself. He would crush these humans. He would burn their planet. He would erase them from history. But deep in his mind, a small voice whispered something he had never felt before. Fear. The limped back to Earth. The ship was more dead than alive. Half the systems were broken. The hull had so many patches it looked like a metal blanket. 3 crew members were wrapped in bags, waiting for burial. But the ship was still flying, and that meant something. When they entered Earth orbit, Captain Ho saw something that made his tired eyes go wide. Thousands of signals were coming from the planet. Every news channel, every radio station, every network. Everyone was talking about the battle footage had been broadcast to the whole world. Billions of people had watched one small ship charge into 40 alien warships. They had watched the impossible victory. They had seen what humans could do. Captain, Ensign Li Bin said softly, "You should see this." She put the broadcasts on screen. People were cheering in the streets of every city. Signs said, "Remember the..." Children were drawing pictures of the ship. Old soldiers were crying. The whole planet was awake and watching. Lieutenant stared at the screen. "They know we are coming back." "They know we are not dead yet," Ho corrected. "That is what matters." They docked at the orbital station. A crowd was waiting. Admiral Guy stood at the front, his face serious but proud. "Captain," the admiral said, "you have given humanity something we have not had in a long time: hope." Ho shook his head slowly. "Admiral, with respect, I do not think it is hope. I think it is something else." "What?" "Anger. They are not hopeful. They are furious. The aliens came to our home and told us to kneel. They showed them we would rather die standing." Admiral nodded. He understood. This was not a story about winning. This was a story about refusing to lose. 200 ships are coming, the admiral said. The entire war fleet. They will be here in 4 days. "How many ships do we have?" The admiral's face grew dark. 17, combat ready. We have others, but they are old. They are weak. They are not meant for this kind of fight. Ho looked out the window at Earth below. His home, everyone's home. "Then we fight with 17. Across the planet, something was happening. Something they had never seen before. Something no one in the galaxy had ever seen. Humanity was getting ready. Factories that had been closed for years came back to life. Machines that made cars started making weapons. Retired soldiers lined up to volunteer. Scientists worked without sleep, studying the pieces of technology that they had captured. In Korea, an old factory started building batteries. In America, nuclear missiles were loaded onto carriers. In China, Russia, India, Europe, everywhere people stopped fighting each other and started fighting together. Old enemies shook hands. Old wars were forgotten. There would be time for arguments later. Right now, there was only one enemy. Far away on the command ship, Observer studied human transmissions. She was trying to understand these creatures. She had written about 100 species. She had watched civilizations rise and fall, but she had never seen anything like this. The humans were making jokes about their own death. They were writing songs about the end of the world. They had given the approaching fleet a nickname, the Delivery Service. "They are laughing," said to High Commander. "They know 200 ships are coming to destroy them, and they are laughing." Dismissed her with a wave of his hand. They are insane. It is the madness of a dying species. When we arrive, they will scream like all the others. Was not so sure. She wrote in her records, the humans do not seem afraid, they seem eager. This is not the behavior of prey. This is the behavior of something that hunts. Back on Earth that was being repaired, Chief Park Sung walked through his engine room with new parts and new hope. The reactor would run again, stronger than before. They are giving us new weapons, he told his team. Something called the Hammer of God. 6 nations built it together in 4 days. Lieutenant inspected the new battery. It was bigger than the old ones, more powerful. The targeting system was faster, smarter, deadlier. Who designed this? She asked. Everyone, Park answered. Scientists from a dozen countries. They did not sleep. They did not rest. They just worked. Captain Ho visited his crew in the hospital section of the station. Many were still recovering from wounds, but when they saw him, they tried to stand up. They tried to salute. Stay down, Ho ordered gently. You have done enough. Captain, one young sailor said, are we going back out? Ho looked at him. The sailor was barely 20 years old. His arm was in a cast. His face was burned on one side, but his eyes were clear and determined. Yes, in 4 days 200 enemy ships will arrive. They will be there to meet them. The sailor smiled. Good, I will be ready. Ensign Lee Bin found Ho later, standing alone by a window. He was looking out at the stars. Captain, are you afraid? Ho thought about the question for a long time. No, he finally said. I was afraid before the first battle. I was afraid of what would happen if we failed. But now I am not afraid anymore. Why? Because I have seen what we can do. I have seen our people unite. I have seen enemies become friends. I have seen the whole world stand up together. He turned to look at her. Even if we lose, we have already won. The wanted slaves. They will only find fighters. Bin nodded slowly. She understood. 4 days later, the fleet arrived. 200 warships, led by High Commander himself. They came out of jump space in perfect formation, their purple hulls glowing with power. And waiting for them were 17 human ships. That was at the front, repaired, reloaded, ready. Captain Ho looked at his crew. These people had become his family. They had fought together. They had bled together. They might die together. This is it, he said simply. No more retreating, no more hiding. We fight until we cannot fight anymore. He opened a channel to all 17 ships. His voice went out to every human who was about to risk their life. They think war is art. We are going to teach them it is survival. Then the 17 ships broke formation and charged at the enemy armada, every single one of them. On the command ship, High Commander watched in disbelief. They are attacking. 17 ships against 200, and they are attacking. Observer watched too. She was not surprised anymore. Yes, she said quietly, that is what humans do. The Battle of Earth lasted 11 hours. It was the longest fight in history. It was the bloodiest day humanity had ever seen, and it changed everything. The 17 human ships hit the enemy fleet like rocks thrown at a giant. They knew they could not win. They knew they would die, but they did not care about winning. They cared about hurting. They cared about making the enemy pay. They led the charge. Captain Ho gave orders in a calm, steady voice. Lieutenant fired the Hammer of God again and again. Each shot killed. Each shot made the bleed. The other human ships fought just as hard. Old destroyers, converted cargo ships, training vessels with young crews, they all attacked together. They covered each other. They died for each other. One by one, the human ships started to fall. The UNS Everest was the first to go, its reactor exploding in a flash of white light. Then the Moscow. Then the Pretoria. Each death was another wound in humanity's heart. But each dying ship took enemies with them. On the Chief Park Sung was fighting a losing battle. The engine room was on fire. Coolant was everywhere. His team was dead or wounded, but the reactor was still running. "Chief," Captain Ho called through the comm, "we need more power." "Captain, if I push any harder, the core will explode." There was a pause, then Ho's voice came back. "How big would the explosion be?" Park Sung understood. He looked at his reactor, his beautiful, angry reactor. It could run for years, or it could be the biggest bomb humanity had ever made. "Big enough to take their command ship with us, Captain." "Hold that option, Chief. We might need it." On the enemy command ship, High Commander was finally starting to understand. His fleet was winning. They were destroying human ships one after another, but they were paying for every victory. 93 warships were gone, 93, against 17 primitives. "How is this possible?" demanded. "They should be dead." Fleet Master's voice came through the comm. He was on a different ship now, commanding the left flank. "High Commander, they do not fight like normal species. They ram our ships. They use their own explosions as weapons. The transmission cut off. Ship had just been destroyed. On the Ensign Lee Bin was broadcasting on every frequency. Her voice went out to Earth, to the surviving ships, to anyone who could hear. "This is the UNSS. We are still fighting. We will never stop fighting. To everyone on Earth, do not forget us. Do not give up. We are human, and humans do not surrender." The bridge was burning around her. Smoke filled the air. She could barely breathe, but she kept talking. She kept broadcasting. Her words would be remembered for 1,000 years. Lieutenant saw Fleet Master's ship explode. She also saw which ship was now closest to them, command vessel. "Captain, I have a shot at the enemy flagship. The Hammer of God is ready." Ho looked at the tactical display. There was dying. Weapons were failing. The hull was breaking apart. They had one shot left. "Take it." Aimed, her hands were steady even though the ship was shaking. She thought about everyone who had died, every crew member, every ship, every hope. She pressed the trigger. The Hammer of God fired. The massive round flew through space, perfectly aimed at its command ship. It hit exactly when the shields flickered. It punched through the bridge. High Commander died instantly. The greatest warrior of the Dominion was killed by a woman who had learned to shoot tin cans in the mountains of Korea. But the battle was not over. The flagship was crippled but not destroyed. 100 enemy ships remained. They had nothing left. "Chief Park," Captain Ho said, "it is time." Park Sung put his hand on the reactor. "It has been an honor, Captain." "The honor was mine, Chief. Tell my wife I love her." "Tell her yourself. I think we will be at the same place soon." Park Sung pushed the reactor past all limits. Alarms screamed. The ship shook. Then he locked the engines on full and ran for the escape pods, but he knew there was no time. The turn toward the crippled flagship. Its engines burned bright. It accelerated faster than any human ship had ever moved. Captain Ho stood on the bridge. Ensign Lee Bin stood beside him. Lieutenant stayed at her station. None of them moved. "It was an honor serving with you," Ho said. "The honor was ours, Captain," replied. Bin smiled. She was not afraid anymore. "My brother wanted to be an astronaut. I hope he makes it." They hit the flagship at full speed. Both ships vanished in an explosion that could be seen from Earth. 107 ships remained, but the Dominion fleet was broken. Their commander was dead. Their pride was destroyed. They looked at Earth below them. They could glass the planet. They could burn every city. But the planet was fighting back. Ground-based fired from every continent. Nuclear missiles rose in waves. Soldiers prepared to fight in the ruins. There would be nothing left to rule, and the Dominion could not afford more losses. Other enemies were waiting in the galaxy. For the first time in 12,000 years, the Dominion, not in victory, not in defeat, in stalemate. Observer watched Earth grow smaller as the fleet retreated. She was the only one still writing. She was the only one who understood what had happened. The humans did not win, she wrote in her final report. But they did not lose. They taught us something we had forgotten. War is not art. War is survival. And these creatures, these small, fragile, short-lived beings, they are the best survivors in the galaxy. She found the word she had been looking for since the beginning. Defiance. 10 years passed. Humanity rebuilt. They studied the captured technology. They learned. They grew. They built a fleet of 200 ships, each one crewed by people who remembered the 17. The Dominion did not return. They were afraid. In their war colleges, they studied the Battle of Earth. They gave humanity a new classification: do not engage. And in the halls of their Senate, when young warriors spoke of easy conquest, the elders said 3 words that silenced everyone. Remember the. On Earth a memorial stood in every nation, 17 ships, 17 names, and at the center a statue of the forever charging at the stars. Ensign Lee Bin's brother did become an astronaut. He commanded one of the new ships. He named it the Bin. Every year on the anniversary of the battle, the human fleet gathered in orbit. They pointed their weapons at the stars. They sent one message into the darkness. We are still here, we will never surrender. Come and try again. The galaxy listened, and the galaxy was afraid. Because now everyone knew the truth about humans. They were small, they were fragile, they lived short lives, but they had something no other species possessed. They did not know how to give up. And that made them the most dangerous creatures in the universe.